Pixar is about to break new ground by dropping a new film set in Italy with the upcoming Luca. This is just the latest of many efforts from Disney and Pixar to attract the massive international audience they have built over the years. Sometimes it's the little details that really makes a film authentic. The Disney animation teams will often translate words, rewrite jokes, or even change characters completely to fit in with audiences all over the world. So let's take a look at just how far Disney will go for their international fans. The Pixar movie Coco came around in 2017 to warm our hearts and then break them into a million pieces. It went on to become a huge success around the world, but not everywhere.
What?
Actually, Coco made exactly $0 in Brazil. Crazy, right? Well, that's because the actual name Coco meant something gross in that country. Let's just say it's a word that rhymes with scoop, and it demonetizes YouTube videos. Very gross indeed. The film had to be given a brand new title, and obviously Mama Coco had to have a new name as well. In Brazil, her name was Lupita instead. I mean, as long as Un Poco Loco was in it, do the names really even matter? If you haven't seen Toy Story 2 in a while, which you should definitely fix as soon as possible, you may not remember that Buzz Lightyear gives a speech Captain America would be proud of.
Right, of course.
When his friends are nervous about venturing out into the real world to save Woody, Buzz rallies them with an inspiring monologue about loyalty and friendship. In the American version, an American flag flies majestically behind him. Internationally, the flag was changed to the entire globe instead. Personally, I like the globe better. He is a superhero astronaut after all. Zootopia seems like the movie Disney was destined to make. A world in which anthropomorphic animals live together in a New York City-style environment? That's the most Disney thing I've ever heard of. The attention to detail Disney used to make their animal world really shines when you see how the news anchors change from country to country. For instance, Australia had a koala anchor while Japan had a panda bear. It's just like them to design and animate completely different animals for different countries just to go the extra mile. That's exactly what Judy Hopps would do. The Cars movies mostly focus on bringing the world of NASCAR to life through the living race cars. Since Cars became an international hit despite NASCAR being an American sport, Cars 2 tried to include an international plot and plenty of references for other countries. For instance, Jeff Gorvette was based on American NASCAR driver Jeff Gordon. In Spain, Formula One driver Fernando Alonso replaced Gorvette. Obviously, we now need Jeff Gordon and Fernando Alonso to race in order to decide who the real Cars 2 cameo should be. It's the only way. It would be easy to forgive you if you hadn't memorized all of the Sugar Rush racers from Wreck-It Ralph. Vanellope does steal all the attention in the Sugar Rush scenes. That's kind of her thing. One of the racers, Minty Zaki, might not be one of the most memorable characters, but she does have a special piece of international trivia attached to her. In Japan, Minty becomes a completely different character named Sakura instead. Sakura or Minty, it doesn't matter, neither one of you could drive. Disney movies are known for their wholesome stories, hilarious side characters, and gut-wrenching scenes that will haunt you forever. Moana definitely fit the bill when it told the story of a brave girl that took on gods and nature itself, with her hilarious chicken sidekick to save the ocean. So, this is definitely not a movie you want associated with adult films. That's why in Italy, the title of the film had to be changed to Oceana instead. This was due to the fact that Moana Pazzi is a well-known adult film star in that country. So, yeah, maybe a little bit off of Disney's brand. Children never agree on anything, particularly which vegetables are the grossest. The international release of Inside Out made this very clear. In the West, the scene in which young Riley is disgusted by her vegetables features broccoli. In Japan, that broccoli was changed to green peppers because culturally, that's considered a grosser vegetable. I had no idea that the broccoli versus green pepper debate was such a big deal that Disney had to reanimate an entire scene, but here we are.
What the heck is that?
It's broccoli on pizza. That's it. I'm done.
Every part of the world has a different sport that they love. America has football, Scotland has golf, and Great Britain has Quidditch. So when Inside Out wanted to show the ideal daydream for Riley's dad, they had to change it for different audiences. In North America, he's fantasizing about hockey. Internationally, though, he's fantasizing about soccer, or football as it's known in most places of the world. I mean, they could have made it easier by having him fantasize about the Olympics, but they didn't ask me. In most movies, when you see a book or writing, there will usually be a little subtitle that translates what the text says. In Up, Disney decided to go a different way. The adventure book that is idly flipped through in the film is translated into several different languages, depending on which country the movie is showing in. Now, you might be thinking, isn't that a little much for such a small detail most people would barely notice? Well, you wouldn't if you're Disney, apparently. Sometimes international translations for big-budget animated movies seem like unnecessarily complicated fixes for problems that could easily be solved. Then sometimes the translation actually improves upon the original product. Take the dream jar from that one scene in Up where literally everyone in the world cried. For English-speaking audiences, the jar was clearly labeled Paradise Falls. In other countries, the jar featured a crude drawing of Paradise Falls instead. I don't know about you, but I like this one much more. I just imagine that Ellie drew it and Carl liked it so much that he put it on the jar, then he looked at it for decades and it made him smile even after. Here I go again, about to cry. Randall's friendship cupcakes being thrown in his face may have been the first stop on his road to villainy, and in the English version of Monsters University, those cupcakes spell out, "Be my pal." This shows just how much sweet desperation Randall had to make alliances. In the international version of the film, those cupcakes had Randall's face on them instead, which is somehow even sadder. Though I've got to say, the cupcakes with Randall's face look way tastier than the pal cupcakes do. The entire conflict in Monsters University revolves around the legendary scare games that all of the different fraternities compete in. During the competition, we see a big banner announcing that it is in fact the Scare Games. Instead of translating scare games for international audiences, they used vague Greek letters to focus on that frat life instead. This definitely seems like one of the times where Disney made more work for themselves than they had to. Just use the Greek letters for all the versions of the movie. It's not like we would have been confused about whether or not this was the official Scare Games or anything. Sometimes, I think Disney likes animating a little too much. For instance, in Ratatouille, I'm sure you barely remember the text in the letter Gusteau writes to Linguini. Well, there are probably several animators out there who will unfortunately never forget it. Around the world, the text used for just a few seconds in the film is translated for different countries. Either these animators did a lot of work for a small detail few would notice, or it was just very important to the plot to establish that Gusteau could write in several different languages. Maybe his international palate is why he became such a legendary chef. In the original Cars movie, Harv is Lightning McQueen's demanding agent.
It almost hurts me to take 10% of your winnings and merchandising and ancillary rights in perpetuity anyway. What a rate!
In the American version of the film, he is voiced by none other than Jeremy Piven from Entourage fame.
So what's up? Are we gonna do this?
In the UK version, they got a completely different celebrity to provide a cameo. British broadcaster Jeremy Clarkson is known for his series on cars called Top Gear, so it was a no-brainer to give him the voice of Harv instead of Jeremy Piven.
Come on!
Personally, I think Clarkson makes for the better Harv. Sorry, Jeremy Piven, but you know it's true. Inside Out shows us a fantastical world that is literally made out of a young girl's imagination. It personifies all of her different emotions and sends them on an adventure of self-acceptance and emotional honesty. So you'd think that this is the one where they could have dropped the realism just a little bit. The short sequence where Bing Bong reads a sign is translated into different languages. I mean, they could have just written it in Riley's made-up language she created when she was 3, but they just like doing the hard thing.
Great.
How long are we away from a world where Pixar pretty much makes a completely new film for each country? I don't know about you, but I'd gladly watch over 50 versions of a Pixar film. Maybe that opening scene from Up isn't so heartbreaking in Sweden.